Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the Appropriation Bill as presented by the Honorable Prime Minister last Tuesday in this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, it has become routine for me after 3 successive election victories to rise in this House to contribute to budget debates. I have supported budget addresses, Mr. Speaker, from the perspective of being in government, and I have vehemently opposed policy pronouncements which at the time of their unveiling, I believe, were not in the best interest of the people of St. Lucia, and more specifically, the people of Dennery North, on whose volition I qualify for a seat in this August Assembly. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am duty-bound to once again place on the parliamentary record my heartfelt gratitude to the people of Olean, Despin, Gadet, La Pelle, Larissos, Richmond, Grand Ravine, Grand Riviere, Belmont, and Denny Riviere, my constituents of Dennery North, for their unwavering love and support throughout this journey. Mr. Speaker, in the majority, they have pledged further support for Shawn Edward and the St. Lucia Labour Party whenever the next general election is called. Mr. Speaker, but before I proceed any further, I crave your indulgence to express condolences to families in Dennery North that have lost loved ones in recent times. Mr. Speaker, I want to reach out in a very special way to my dear friend Curtis of Denny Riviere, who lost his soulmate and dear wife, Donisha. She passed away at the St. Jude Hospital earlier this week. Mr. Speaker, this morning I received news that Levy Harper of Denny Riviere passed away, and so I want to express condolences to his family. I also want to express my condolences to the Mulvey family, who yesterday had to bid farewell to their matriarch, Mr. Bell. And Mr. Speaker, all the other families in Dennery North would have lost loved ones in recent times. I want to also reach out to the Deputy Secretary General of the CARICOM, Mr. Armstrong Alexis, and his family on the passing of their mother. Mr. Speaker, before I delve further into my presentation, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if it is fate, coincidence, or by design that more often than not, I get to speak after the member for Choiseul, Saltibus. But, Mr. Speaker, I would rather speak after the leader of the opposition, because convention in St. Lucia and elsewhere in the Caribbean dictate that after the Prime Minister has presented the budget address, it is the responsibility of the opposition leader to provide an immediate response. Mr. Speaker, this is what happens in Trinidad and Tobago. This is what happens in Barbados. This is what happens in Jamaica, St. Kitts, and throughout the Caribbean. But in St. Lucia, for reasons unknown to me, the leader of the opposition refuses to honor and respect the convention, and instead, Mr. Speaker, he refuses to respond to the budget address when the entire nation anticipates a response and alternatives to what the Prime Minister would have presented. And so today I find myself speaking not after him, but instead after the member for Choiseul. And Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the member for Choiseul is being set up. I wonder if there's a complot, Mr. Speaker, to send the member for Choiseul up front, to take, for want of a better expression, the blows, Mr. Speaker, that he constantly subjects himself to with his utterances in this honorable House. And you would have thought, Mr. Speaker, that given what happened in the debate on the estimates, that the member would have learned his lesson and come here and make a more informed contribution to the debate than some of what, Mr. Speaker, he was spewing there with the confidence of a man who's lost, Mr. Speaker, and does not even know whether he's coming or he's going in this House. Mr. Speaker, the member chided our government, according to him, for stopping the Grosley Highway and stopping the hospital in Vieux-Fort. Because according to him, and he may be right, Mr. Speaker, about construction's contribution to economic growth, But if you go in to conveniently cite the Grosley Highway and the St. Jude Hospital, you should have, in the same vein, cited your government stopping of the administrative building in Vieux-Fort. He did not cite that his government stopped the Larry Social Center, the Labrie Market, the Bastien Joseph Community Center, and so many other projects they found in train when they came in, Mr. Speaker. But because of political victimization and because of them not having an affinity for ordinary people, they decided to stop the project, believing that that would have inflicted pain on the parliamentary representatives in the communities that the projects had already been earmarked for. And so, Mr. Speaker, he wanted to chide us because, according to him, we stopped the highway in Grosley and the hospital. Mr. Speaker, he has a problem. He has a difficulty. He has a discomfort with the lowest unemployment figures ever recorded in this country. And he could not sit there and accept that our government has performed. And we have taken unemployment down to an unprecedented low. Never before in the history of this country have we recorded, Mr. Speaker, such brilliant figures as it relates to unemployment. Mr. Speaker, he wanted to take credit for the TVET program in the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, and he comes with an outdated press release trying to claim the successes that are being reaped, Mr. Speaker, with our TVET program in the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, he has a difficulty with the fact that this first-generation scholarship program is yielding success and providing opportunities to ordinary St. Lucians who otherwise, Mr. Speaker, would not have had the means to walk the halls of a university in pursuit of higher education. Mr. Speaker, you would have heard the Prime Minister before talk about there's been an administration of Wooder, Schroeder, and Wooder. They wasted 5 years in government. And that was not enough time to waste. They still went into a 6-year wasting time. Have nothing to show by way of achievements for their tenure in office. And today you want to come 4 years in opposition to come and claim TVET project and successes in TVET. You want to lay claim to the first generation scholarship program. Mr. Speaker, they were the ones, when they came in, and I've said this in this house and I will repeat it at every sitting if I have to, so that the point can resonate. The member for Labrie at an OAS meeting in 2012 in Guatemala, he engaged his foreign affairs counterpart for the Denmark Water Redevelopment Project, and he was able to secure a grant of $5 million. Upon realizing that the $5 million from Mexico would not have been sufficient for the Denmark Water Redevelopment Project, our government, the St. Lucia Labour Party, under Dr. Kenny Anthony, we secured an additional $22 million from the Caribbean Development Bank for that water project, Mr. Speaker. And who had the scissors in hand when the project was completed and I was in opposition? The member for Vieux-Fort South, because the election was approaching. He had Micoud South, Mr. Speaker. He had the scissors cutting the ribbon to celebrate a project that he claimed as his, because he had nothing to show by way of successes during his tenure in government. And today, Mr. Speaker, the member for Choiseul Saltibus will come here.
Member for Micoud South.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, the member is misleading the House. On that specific date, he was invited, he was in attendance, and he was given a keynote speech, and every single speech that a member from my government made acknowledged the work that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the previous Minister of Foreign Affairs had done, and also the Minister. And the government never took credit for starting the project, but was very happy to complete the project, but gave full credit to the genesis of the project, and specifically the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and also the district rep at the time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'm continuing. I am not withdrawing the statement. I will repeat what I said. I said, Mr. Speaker, that he took credit for the project. He had the scissors cutting the ribbon on the day when the project, Mr. Speaker, was officially opened. And if you, Mr. Speaker, for you, Mr. Speaker, if he can bring his manifesto and his list of achievements on the eve of the last general election, he had checked next to that particular project a success of the United Workers' Party. So don't come here today and want to claim credit for TVET program and first generation scholarship program. Don't. That was not your work. You wasted time. You had nothing to, you were too busy telling St. Lucians that you would have provided visa-free access to the United States for them. You promised that you were going to send bananas to France. That is what you told St. Lucians. And you were very specific with your pronouncements. You said there were documents on your desk awaiting your signature so that days after you assumed the office as the government, bananas would be leaving St. Lucia to go to France. You know what I saw in my constituency? A banana-producing constituency? People who had left St. Lucia to work in Martinique and come back after 15 days. They returned, Mr. Speaker. They cleared lands and they began to cultivate bananas again because they had been promised a market in France. And Mr. Speaker, 5 years, dragged into a 6th year, not a single bunch of bananas could have left the shores of St. Lucia to go to France. But today you come and you want to claim success in relation to TVET program and first generation scholarship program. You promised 23 islands, but you wouldn't complete the Larry Suzelf Center. You promised 26 islands, you won't complete the Austin Hill Road. But today, head a member for Choiseul. He comes and he talks about roads in his constituency. He talks about centers in his constituency that have not been opened. As I said in the debate on the estimates, Mr. Speaker, if there are facilities waiting to be opened in his constituency or any constituency for that matter, this government will ensure that the facility will be opened. But you see, the worst thing is when you sit at meetings, Mr. Speaker, where you are being programmed and you are being instructed by people who themselves are not brave enough to even put their name on a ballot to contest elections. But they come as caucus advisors and they ask you to go up front and say this in the parliament. And that is why I said a while ago, and I will repeat, that I believe the member is being set up. The member is being set up. That is the departure from convention. Tout partout à Kawaibla, les unis en premier ministre qui vini et puis qui mette speech budget leader. Premier monde qui supposé parler, c'est le leader of opposition. Il a fait à Trinidad, il a fait à Barbade. Il a fait à Jamaica, il a fait à St. Kitts. Mais à cette liste, même parlement pour Mikoud South, c'est le seul monde qui a décidé that il pas qu'à venir parler, là il supposé parler, et qui n'y peut parler, là il veut parler, et planer en l'autre 16 monde en disant qu'il parlement qui n'y peut coûter, là il parler, parce que c'est lui qui a mené, et c'est lui qui loi. Et ça n'a jamais fait ici en bas nous, Mr. Speaker. Et pièce monde qui va conduire, ou qui a conduit kai consit, et c'est ou qui a dit qui les monde qui a parlé. So là maintenant, même parlement pour choisir qui a venir dire ces bagages là. Dis moi que c'est vrai, yo ka vrai. Yo ka vrai avec esprit yo ka fait ça comme parlement babono ka dit. Mr. Speaker, I sat back on Tuesday and I couldn't help but conclude that after 3 short years at the helm of this country, this Prime Minister has distinguished himself as one of the best prime ministers to preside over the affairs of this country. And in the words of Jeremiah, not the prophet, but the MP for Nikunof, Mr. Speaker, it was another masterclass. The Prime Minister presented one of the best budgets of modern times in any Caribbean country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the budget was bold. It was comprehensive. It was deliberate. It spoke to a visionary leader, and it reflected a man whose philosophy is rooted in compassion and love for the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, to use a colloquial expression, the budget had something for everybody, irrespective of your station in life. It was a budget for the business community. The teachers saw their benefits in the budget. The farmers are excited about the pronouncements that were made in this budget for them and their fortunes, Mr. Speaker. The police, Mr. Speaker, are happy with the budget. The students of this country, from kindergarten to university level, are happy with the pronouncements that came out of the budget presentation. And so, Mr. Speaker, that is a man, after 4 consecutive years at the helm, has registered economic growth, Mr. Speaker. The lowest unemployment figures on record. And so today, Mr. Speaker, I am duty-bound to stand and provide and give my unequivocal support to the budget as presented by the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have a very huge ministerial portfolio. 2 major departments, the Department of Education and the Department of Sustainable Development. And I know time is limited tonight, and so, Mr. Speaker, I will proceed to make some pronouncements on the work program of the Department of Sustainable Development in the Ministry of Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training. Mr. Speaker, as St. Lucia and the rest of the world grapple with the triple planetary crisis, and triple planetary crisis is a term that encapsulates that connectivity between climate change and biodiversity loss, and climate change and pollution, and how they come together to affect the health and the well-being of our planet. Mr. Speaker, our response to the triple planetary crisis resides in the various programs of the Department of Sustainable Development. And so I am immensely pleased, Mr. Speaker, to share with this Honorable House the tremendous work that is being done by the Department of Sustainable Development. They have a very small staff complement, Mr. Speaker, when compared to other government departments, but the results have always been tremendous over the various thematic areas, namely climate change, biodiversity, chemical and hazardous waste, ocean governance, and coastal zone management, to name a few. And one of the key programming areas, Mr. Speaker, is climate change. St. Lucia and other SEEDs or small island developing states face significant and disproportionate threats from climate change. Threats that include rising sea levels, more frequent and intense storms, coastal erosion, food and water insecurity. Mr. Speaker, as a result of climate change, we are witnessing sea level rise. The polar caps are melting, and this is causing our oceans and our seas to rise, thereby causing erosion on the coast of small island states. It is so severe in some parts of the world, Mr. Speaker, that some islands, it is predicted that they will disappear in the next 30 to 40 years. And the effects of climate change can be quite debilitating on small island states like St. Lucia. It compromises safety, Mr. Speaker. It affects livelihoods and infrastructure, and it poses an existential threat to us, Mr. Speaker, as small island developing states. Mr. Speaker, a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane only needs 30 minutes to decimate the economy of St. Lucia or another small island state. And when your economy is devastated, your GDP is rendered zero, Mr. Speaker. You are brought to your knees, and then you have to rely on a very unforgiving and uncaring international community to mobilize resources to get you to start again. And so at COP in Sharm el-Sheikh a few years ago, Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia and the rest of the Caribbean, we were extremely happy when we learned and we participated in discussions for the formation of the Loss and Damage Fund. It is a facility that we expected to tap into, Mr. Speaker, to help deal with some of our climate adaptation and climate mitigation situations. And what do I mean by climate adaptation and climate mitigation? Mr. Speaker, climate adaptation speaks to the interventions, the programs, and the things that we have to do as a country, Mr. Speaker, to adapt to the things that have been brought on us as a result of climate change. Whereas mitigation, on the other hand, speaks to the things that we have to do to help minimize the impact of climate change, not only on St. Lucia, but on the globe. Mr. Speaker, last year, I introduced the Green Climate Fund National Adaptation Plan Readiness Project, under which St. Lucia would receive $4.5 million to implement a GCF readiness and participatory support grant to develop adaptation strategies and action plans for the remaining priority sectors of education, tourism, and infrastructure and spatial planning. Mr. Speaker, I can report that over the last year, much progress has been made with the development of the Education Adaptation Strategy and Action Plan, with the draft plan developed and circulated among stakeholders of education, teachers, parents, principals, the teachers' union, and all other stakeholders, with a view to ensuring that the plan reflects the expectations of the people whom it is intended to impact most. Mr. Speaker, efforts have already been initiated on the other two strategies and action plans for tourism and infrastructure and spatial planning. Mr. Speaker, climate change is everybody's business. Everybody's business. The government has a vested interest in climate change. The private sector ought to be concerned with what is happening with climate change, because at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, climate change affects everybody. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Sustainable Development is programming heavily in relation to biodiversity restoration. And through the Southeast Coast Project, which is mainly funded by the UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, and JEF, and a considerable amount of work has been carried out in the Southeast Coast projects, Mr. Speaker, on the Southeast Coast project, in communities such as Vieux-Fort, Labrie, Monrepo, Micoud, with a view, Mr. Speaker, to sensitizing the locals to the benefits that can be derived as far as livelihoods are concerned as they use the natural resources at their disposal. Mr. Speaker, another area of programming under the Department of Sustainable Development, this time through a statutory entity, the St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority. The St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority exists to enhance St. Lucia's environmental integrity and the health of citizens through the provision and management of an integrated system of public education and awareness for collection, treatment, recycling, and disposal of solid and hazardous waste. Département or agency gouvernement qui nous responsabilité pour amasser zordi et puis make sure nous mettons zordi nous dans place ko is safe, Mr. Speaker, ko il va pas mener disease et affecter santé moun. C'est agency qui a conduite moi comme ministre Sustainable Development and ministre Éducation. The goal is to improve existing standards of public health and environmental quality through more efficient waste management. Mr. Speaker, there is more to waste collection and waste management than a truck driving through a community twice a week or 3 times a week to collect household waste and to dump it at the landfill. There are different categories of waste that we have to contend with on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, you have household waste. You also have waste being generated at your hospitals. When surgeries are performed and limbs are amputated, we must have a place to dispose those, and there must be a particular method to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that we are not encouraging the spread of diseases and things of that sort. Mr. Speaker, you will recall in 2018, the government of St. Lucia, with funding from the Caribbean Development Bank, engaged a firm from Malaysia, Pemandu Associates. Pemandu was able to convince the then administration in 2018 to incinerate solid waste with machines from Malaysia. In other words, Mr. Speaker, the company from Malaysia came here, they engaged the government in a discussion, and they were able to say to the government, instead of having a landfill where you can dispose of your garbage, we have a machine that we can sell to you where you can burn all your garbage and you will be landfill free by a particular date in this country. Mr. Speaker, the Carino waste decomposition machines were purchased. And so the government entered an agreement with the company on the 2nd of August 2019 to purchase 20 incinerators at a cost of $10 million to the government of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, they entered the agreement. To date, $10 million gone down the drain because the technical report that was received from the staff at Solid Waste, Mr. Speaker, indicate that that was a waste of money and there were no benefits derived from such an initiative by the people of St. Lucia. And you know what, how we pay for it, Mr. Speaker? Every single month, we are transporting between 65 to 70 containers of waste monthly, Mr. Speaker, to Deglo landfill from Vieux-Fort. And every morning, Mr. Speaker, you have to see the long lines of traffic behind those containers. The stench is too much for people in the communities where those container trucks traverse, Mr. Speaker. loss of productive hours by people commuting to work, children reaching or arriving at school late because of that particular arrangement, Mr. Speaker. And every month, this government has to continue finding $75,000 monthly just to ensure that we transport the waste from Vieux-Fort to Deglo. That was a problem created by. But a member for Choiseul, in all of his recollections, he recalls that TVET was an initiative of their government. He claims the first generation program. He remembers all the projects that were stopped, but he does not remember that it was his government that spent $10 million buying incinerators that never worked, that never benefited the people of St. Lucia, and that every month we must find $75,000 to haul garbage. Mr. Speaker, do you know what I can do in the early childhood sector with $75,000 a month, Mr. Speaker? Do you know what $75,000 a month can do for the people of Grand Ravine and Gardet and Denier Riviere and Olio and Lapel, Mr. Speaker? But he does not claim those. But, Mr. Speaker, we are doing our best to cure that particular problem. And so, Mr. Speaker, the Solid Waste Management Authority has been working diligently with the World Bank through the UBEC project to do a number of things, including a feasibility study to determine the exact location for a waste disposal site in the south. Mr. Speaker, we are also working with the World Bank to revise the current Solid Waste Management Authority Act. The legislation has been around for some time. It needs some refining to make the agency a little more purposeful and more potent than it is for the time being. Mr. Speaker, also at the level of the Solid Waste Management Authority, the government has agreed to increase the fees being paid to waste haulers in this country, Mr. Speaker. In this new financial year, the government will increase the contract fees paid to waste collection contractors. This is the first such adjustment since 2015, Mr. Speaker. Since 2015. And I can tell you, because I know firsthand some of the challenges that waste haulers encounter as they look to provide this very necessary service in the various communities. Mr. Speaker, we have built concrete roads in many of the communities. And we have a problem in a lot of the pocket communities where people choose to park their vehicles on the concrete roads. And that is creating a major problem for the various refuse collection trucks, Mr. Speaker, as they try to service communities. And in some areas, the contractor has to get a pickup vehicle to enter and penetrate certain parts of communities and to haul the waste down to the main road and then to transfer it onto the truck that would take it to the site. And this has increased the operations cost significantly. And I believe, and it is the wisdom of our government, to provide an increase to the waste haulers. I'm sure Mr. Innocent Sado, with whom I've had several meetings, and who usually, Mr. Speaker, makes representation on behalf of his fellow waste haulers, will welcome news that in the very near future, we will honor our commitment and our promise, as the Prime Minister would have indicated, promises made are promises that are meant to be kept, and that they will receive their increase. Mr. Speaker, still on the sustainable development, I want to draw your attention to the Pitom management area. Mr. Speaker, the Pitom management area was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List on June 30th, 2004. And Mr. Speaker, the benefits of World Heritage status include enhanced protection and conservation, increased tourism arrivals, greater international recognition. It attracts funding, and so many other benefits. Mr. Speaker, we have a situation with the PMA where, Mr. Speaker, a lot of the lands within the demarcation of the PMA are privately owned, and some owned by the government, the King's Chain, etc. And so private landowners within the demarcation of the PMA, and there's not much I can say about it, Mr. Speaker, because the matter is before the courts, or it is said to be sub judice. Mr. Speaker, private landowners want to embark on certain projects within the PMA that can place our World Heritage status in jeopardy. And so, the government of St. Lucia some years ago embarked on what is known as a LAC study, limits of acceptable change, in terms of how you can change the natural environment within the PMA demarcation. And Mr. Speaker, proposed developments, as I indicated by private landowners, have triggered very robust discussions, some of which have ended in the courts. Mr. Speaker, I want to place on the parliamentary record that our government is committed to working with the landowners to ensure that we preserve the World Heritage status that we currently enjoy with UNESCO. And so I must thank, Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary representative for Soufrière Font Saint-Jacques for working with the PMA and working with the staff of the Department of Sustainable Development in our quest to ensure that our status is not jeopardized. I want to thank Joan Hippolyte, the manager of the PMA, and her staff, Glenda, Joanna, Chroma, and Celia, for the tremendous work that they are doing in Soufrière, in policing the PMA and ensuring that it remains in as pristine a condition as it is today. Mr. Speaker, I want to turn your attention to the Department of Education. The Prime Minister, in his budget address on Tuesday, Mr. Speaker, spoke about early childhood education. Mr. Speaker, early childhood education remains a top priority for this government. 9 state-of-the-art pre-K classrooms have been commissioned, along with a new early childhood development center in Patience, Micoudneuf. Another center is set to be commissioned in Bel Air in the coming year, collectively providing educational opportunities for 250 vulnerable children. Mr. Speaker, in August 2024, the government provided a one-time grant of $2,500 to 105 preschools to support the procurement of educational supplies. Mr. Speaker, the bulk of the early childhood effort in this country is being made, and the bulk of the load is being carried by private early childhood and preschools. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is only a conscionable government. It is only a compassionate Prime Minister, in recognition of this fact, who will find monies in the public purse and say to the private early childhood practitioners that we understand what you are doing. We understand the significance of your service to nation building. We understand the importance of what you're doing to providing the foundation for the children who will become the citizens of tomorrow, that we can meet you halfway and say, here is a contribution that you can use to improve the services to the children of this country. Mr. Speaker, in addition to the grant of $2,500 to the 105 preschools, in January of 2025, a further $170,000 in subsidies was allocated to benefit 3,409 parents, offering a $50 subsidy towards school fees for children in early childhood. This subsidy will be doubled in the new school year, beginning in September of 2025, as part of the government's broader vision to strengthen early childhood education and achieve universal early childhood education in alignment with the United Nations 2030 agenda. Mr. Speaker, we ushered in the St. Lucia Labour Party universal primary school education. It was the St. Lucia Labour Party that ushered in universal secondary education. And today, Mr. Speaker, we are making the bold and progressive pronouncement that we will be the administration, or we are the administration that will usher in universal early childhood education. And that no child will be left behind, Mr. Speaker. Whether your parents can afford the fees or not, once the child has reached a level of maturation where he or she can be at preschool, this government will facilitate that particular initiative to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that every child is comfortably accommodated at an early childhood education center in this country. Mr. Speaker, a Taiwanese grant of EC $1 million will facilitate introduction of pre-kindergarten programs at 4 primary schools. This initiative will create additional learning spaces, increasing capacity, and accommodate approximately 60 children. Training programs, Mr. Speaker, on the infusion of ICT, in SEN pedagogy for early childhood educators is something that we are already embarking on. We will provide training for early childhood educators, and early detection of learning impediments in children is something that we will pay close attention to as we train our early childhood educators. We will procure, Mr. Speaker, as we have in the past, assistive technologies for SEN, or special needs education students, Mr. Speaker, and ICT equipment for 4 strategically located early childhood centers in this country. Mr. Speaker, as I visit the various early childhood centers in this school, I can report to this honorable House that there is need for standardization, there is need for standards. Let me aller at the different communes, Mr. Speaker. Ek mwen ka gade ti l'école, epi sa nou ka ki preschool, Mr. Speaker. Oui, mwen ko pan la ni moun ki ka bay un service, ko maman sa ki te isyo because yon ni an jounen travail pou ay fe. Ko papa sa mette isyo because yon ni an jounen travail pou ay fe. Ek kon, Mr. Speaker, nou ko pan significance kalte service sa la. Nou ka di, i pa ase pou just mette se mamay la, an adan se place la ko yoye. But nou ni pou ni, en plan, kote nou hen, tout se l'école se la, pour weki you can operate at a standard that is acceptable and in conformity with what should be passing for early childhood education in this country. We have to address issues of standards in relation to the physical environment. The space must be child-friendly. It must be stimulating. It must be appealing to the senses of the children. It must be clean. It must be sanitized, Mr. Speaker. It must have adequate lighting. And the environment should not be intimidating to the children who have to reside there on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, CXC fees, facilities fees. The Prime Minister was very clear and very concise when he spoke about our government's commitment to paying facilities fees and CXC fees for the children of this country. Government remains committed to strengthening social safety nets by providing support to parents. And support can manifest itself in so many different ways. And when we say we are paying facilities fees, or we are continuing to pay facilities fees and CXC fees, Mr. Speaker, we are making an intervention. We are bolstering and strengthening the safety nets for parents in this country. And Mr. Speaker, I remember being a teacher for many, many years, and facilities fees and CXC fees have always been vexing issues for parents. But this government, $2.2 million annually in facilities fees for more than 26,000 primary and secondary school students. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, $400,000, Mr. Speaker, for CXC subjects, one science subject, and one foreign language. And Mr. Speaker, why one foreign language? Why one science subject? We are preparing our children, as I would have said here before, not to confine their imaginations and their dreams to the shores of St. Lucia. But our education system is meant to create global citizens. So that a child, Mr. Speaker, whether at the primary level or secondary level, if he or she has to exit our school system, that child should be at a state of readiness where he can immerse seamlessly into a classroom with his or her counterparts, whether they're in Singapore or they're in the United States of America or they're in Canada. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we are making it compulsory for foreign languages to be taught at both the primary and the secondary level, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, every child who will be registering for CXC CSEC, not CXC Cape, but CXC CSEC, the secondary program, will complement the government of St. Lucia, have mathematics, English language or English A, one science subject, and one foreign language paid by the government of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, a university education is crucial for personal and community advancement. Having a university education, it fosters individual growth. It enhances career prospects. It drives innovation. It broadens an individual's understanding, a community's understanding, and a country's understanding of the world within which we live. having a university education in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, makes St. Lucia more competitive than we would have been. And that was the thinking behind the Honorable Prime Minister's program of having at least one university graduate per household. And Mr. Speaker, for the past 4 years, this government has invested roughly $10 million in tertiary education in this country. And Mr. Speaker, I can report to this honorable House that when you consider the bursaries offered at Saffa Louis Community College, you look at the UniPass, the University Package of Assistance for Student Success, you look at mainstream scholarships, Economic Cost Award for UE landed and global campuses, you look at the CDP contributions to supporting higher educational pursuits at the community level, I can pronounce boldly in this parliament that our government has assisted and provided approximately 2,000 opportunities of higher education for the citizens of this country in 4 years. Mr. Speaker, this new financial year, the drive will continue. 50 full scholarships with Monroe College for the first generation program. An additional 17 scholarships, 3 of which will be full scholarships and 14 partial scholarships also with Monroe College. We are estimated to have this year, Mr. Speaker, 29 scholarships with the Republic of China, Taiwan, Mr. Speaker. 30 scholarships with the Cuban government. Over 10 scholarships with the Hungarian and Moroccan governments. 120 bursaries with the Saffa Louis Community College. And Mr. Speaker, stipend to nursing students pursuing their studies at the Saffa Louis Community College. Mr. Speaker, Economic Cost Awards go to students studying at the University of the West Indies. And as I indicated, students at the London campuses, namely Mona, Keville, St. Augustine, and Five Isles in Antigua. Mr. Speaker, other scholarship opportunities will come through the OAS, the Commonwealth, Chevening, etc. So, Mr. Speaker, we are catering for the students of this country. We are not only laying the foundation at the early childhood and primary levels, but, Mr. Speaker, we understand the value. We understand the returns that can come when we invest in higher education, when we train our people so they can be on the same plane with their counterparts, irrespective of where in the world they're from. A St. Lucian trained economist, Mr. Speaker, is just as good as an economist at the World Bank in Washington. A St. Lucian doctor, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding all what you've heard about our doctors and people trying to derail the efforts of our doctors, are just as good as their counterparts from almost anywhere in the world, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as I indicated, and the Prime Minister himself made the pronouncement, we are providing stipends, Mr. Speaker, stipends to students pursuing nursing programs at the Saffa Louis Community College. Mr. Speaker, nurses play a critical role in healthcare delivery everywhere in the world. Nationally, we've been able, Mr. Speaker, or we've been operating with a deficit, and I'm sure the Minister of Health would have alluded to that in his presentation. We are operating a deficit of approximately 120 to 150 nurses on average. Mr. Speaker, un système santé Saint-Lucie, tous les années, système santé nous, il short, eh bien, il a marché à peu près 120 pour 150 nos en l'hôpital, en health center, et puis un système là généralement. Except pour raison ça là. Un petit pays qu'on nous a marché plus que 100 nos en système là. On est pour tirer chapeau. Et on est pour dire merci pour ces nos là qui a été caillou devant jour. C'est ça qui a été caillou 5h, 6h après-midi et ça c'est demain bon matin yo ka venir. Et you can aller là et travailler. To give an honest day's work, to sacrifice, Mr. Speaker, making a contribution to the development of their country. Mr. Speaker, all they need from us is compassion, love, expressions of gratitude, but not try to derail them because you get carried away on a platform ahead of an election that you will lose anyway, Mr. Speaker. Why do that to the nurses and healthcare professionals? And so, Mr. Speaker, with the Saffa Louis Community College being the primary training facility or institution for nurses in this country, where we graduating on average 35 to 40 nurses annually, Mr. Speaker. I am happy.
Remember, you have 15 minutes left.
I am elated, thank you, Mr. Speaker, when I heard the Prime Minister himself in his budget presentation speak to the nation and tell the nurses and by extension all St. Lucians how nurses are going to benefit from the goodwill of this government. And let me say, Mr. Speaker, that even before COVID, the World Health Organization had already estimated that there was a 6 million shortage of nurses worldwide before COVID. And you know what happens, Mr. Speaker? Since COVID, the situation has been exacerbated across the globe. And what happens as a result? Countries with resources, countries with money, they are able to lure and entice our nurses to come and work for them, Mr. Speaker, at much more lucrative amounts than we can pay as a salary. And that is why, when a nurse can turn down an offer to work in Canada or in Bermuda or the US and she decides that she's going to toil in this country, because like us and like all patriots, she has a vision where she wants to see a St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, where we can be globally competitive, Mr. Speaker, we have to support the nurses. And so for the ensuing academic year, the new academic year, nurses entering the program at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, first-year students or entry-level students, will receive a tuition grant of $2,500. Second-year nursing students, Mr. Speaker, will also receive a tuition grant, complements the government of St. Lucia, of $2,500. The third-year students, Mr. Speaker, who would have gone through the rigors of year one, they would have toiled in year two. And, Mr. Speaker, the workload is beginning to catch up with them. And they have to think of tuition fees. Our government is saying to them, we are saying to them as a government, that when you get 2 year free, we are paying half the tuition fees for you, and we're giving you a grant of $5,000. And, Mr. Speaker, some of them would have struggled in year one. They would have struggled in year two. They would have struggled in year three. And for those of us who have been exposed to higher education, I am sure you can relate that the nearer the finish line gets, the more challenging the programs become. And sometimes you even begin to doubt yourself. And we're saying to the final year students, the fourth year students, that we are meeting your tuition at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College in full. In other words, we are paying the $10,000 tuition fee for you when you get to the fourth year. So that you don't have to worry about paying monies in the fourth year. But instead, we are already conditioning your mind, whereby you can begin to take your rightful place at a health center or a hospital to discharge and dispense services to the people of this country. This is what a compassionate government does. Mr. Speaker, l'année, ça nous a créé un shortage. Nous pas venir assez nos en système santé nous. On la terre ou attend côté l'année presque 6 millions nos qui a manché. Ouais, il pas manché, mais système là besoin 6 millions nos pli passer nous ni. Except ici, quanti pays nous besoin nos tout. Et premier ministre la dit nous that since Arthur Lewis Community College c'est place là que nous ca étudier monde pour faire nos. Nous caille en l'année 9 éducation qui a commencé ça en anglais nous a créé academic year. Nous avons commencé par c'est maman là qui a fait études de nos plus si pour passer au cas joindre pour les moments. So that maman qui a venu pour premier monde qui a venu faire nos en première année. Yo ka un hot gouvernement ça là $2,500 pour payer pour l'école yo. Monde qui en deuxième année programme c'est pour 4 années, c'est monde qui en deuxième année qui a $2,500. Moun qui a troisième année a $5,000 et ça c'est half l'argent yo aussi supposé payer pour étudier. Et c'est moun qui a quatrième et dernière année a un hot gouvernement nous $10,000 pour payer pour l'école yo pour que yo fini programme là et puis qu'il fini et puis en l'idée puis un chill qui a une école yo pour payer pour aller travailler en l'hôpital là et en ces health center. Mr. Speaker, what about the teachers of our country? I'm a proud teacher. And I always say to people when they ask me and I travel, professionally, what are you? And I'm always quick to remark, Mr. Speaker, that I'm a teacher spending time in the corridors of politics. I'm a trained teacher. I taught, Mr. Speaker, for more than a decade. Mr. Speaker, I spent 2 full-time years at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College Division of Teacher Education and Educational Administration. And I know, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was a teacher, Mr. Speaker. I've just been reminded. And so, Mr. Speaker, I understand the plight of teachers. So, Mr. Speaker, when the teachers of this country were receiving a teaching materials allowance of $800, Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister in 2023 said that we need to stop and take stock. And he increased it, Mr. Speaker, by $600, so that today, every teacher in the system receives what we call the TMA, or the Teaching Material Allowance, prior to the opening or the commencement of the new academic year. They get reflected on their salary slips $1,400. And the TMA is not for teachers to buy clothes. The TMA is not for teachers to spend on fancy things. And I can tell you that there are teachers, the majority of teachers in this country, would spend a lot more than the TMA to ensure the readiness of their classrooms, the readiness of their children, to make the learning environment more inviting than it is prior to the opening of school. And I've said it in here before, when they travel, whether it's to the UK, Canada, or the US, sometimes they pull in with them when they get off the aircraft or out of the baggage area, 2 suitcases, Mr. Speaker. And I can assure you, for the majority of them, 1 suitcase is all about instructional aids, materials to motivate students and to make the learning experience more exciting. And in recognition of that, we increase the TMA so that every teacher today can take home $1,400. Mr. Speaker, on page 67 of the budget address, and I quote, temporary teachers will now receive full salaries for the month of August. Now, Mr. Speaker, you can criticize that as you want. And I say you, not you, Mr. Speaker, figuratively speaking. People who criticize this, they do not understand the plight of temporary teachers. When you do not get your salary for the month of August, Mr. Speaker, it triggers a very serious pattern of disruptions for you, Mr. Speaker. Loans, small loans have to be serviced. Family commitments have to be met. Basic living expenses, Mr. Speaker, are compromised, especially for teachers who have a lot. And some of them, they're temporary. And in addition to having to look after themselves and their children and their family, Mr. Speaker, they have to lend support to people in the extended family and even neighbors. So when I heard the pronouncement made by the Prime Minister, I was just as elated as any temporary teacher would be benefiting from this particular initiative. Mr. Speaker, ICT laptops and content development. There is an indispensable role for ICT in education. You cannot be speaking about education in 2025 and beyond if you do not have an appreciation for the role that ICT or technology can play, Mr. Speaker, in the education process. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to provide laptops to the children of this country. And when the United Workers' Party administration stopped the laptop program, Mr. Speaker, when they stopped the laptop program that was instituted by Dr. Kenny Anthony, the member for Beaufort South, and then Education Minister Robert Lewis, Mr. Speaker, they were making a mistake. They were making a mistake, Mr. Speaker. But today, I am happy to report in this honorable house that every single secondary child in this country has a laptop computer, complements the government of salvation. Mr. Speaker, there's more to technology in education than laptop computers. We will continue to transform traditional classrooms into smart classrooms, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we will continue to provide the laptops as well. And our government has provided over 7,000 laptops ever since we came into office. Mr. Speaker, we have provided a more affordable $11.49 EC per child compared to the US $100 license fee per child paid by the United Workers' Party administration. As a result, Mr. Speaker, of this, we are saving $260 per child, or $260 multiplied by
5 minutes left.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Standing Order 32.8 be suspended to allow the honorable member another half hour to finish his presentation.
Honourable members, the question is that Standing Order 32.8 be suspended and 32.10 invoked to allow the member for Denry North an additional 30 minutes. I now put a question. As many as of their opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. And the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I was making the point that the government has registered significant savings since we restored the laptop program compared to what obtained under the United Workers' Party administration. We've been able to save $2.8 million. Because, Mr. Speaker, during the reign of the United Workers' Party, they entered an agreement with a company, Mr. Speaker. We knew of the existence of that partnership before we came into office. But we were very responsible. That even if we had misgivings about agreements that the government entered into with private companies, we were not reckless to go out on the market steps or elsewhere and threaten private investors or companies that had agreements with the government. The responsible thing for us to have done is precisely what we did. When we came in, we reviewed the program, Mr. Speaker, and we stopped it. Mr. Speaker, the monies that we've been able to save, the $2.8 million that I mentioned earlier, has been used to bolster our TVET program. It has also been used, Mr. Speaker, to lend support to the First Generation Scholarship Program and other initiatives in education. Mr. Speaker, digital content development for secondary schools. The Department of Education has, over the past 2.5 years, been developing digital content in 10 subject areas of the lower secondary school curriculum. This complements, Mr. Speaker, the laptop program, and full implementation will take place in September 2025, following the final review of 4 subjects currently being undertaken. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what obtained before. The United Workers' Party administration entered into an agreement with a foreign company. The company provided devices that were substandard. They were flimsy. Mr. Speaker, the rate at which the devices were being damaged was just not acceptable for the amount of money that was being spent on those devices. And despite, Mr. Speaker, the technical staff in the Ministry of Education admonishing the government of the day and saying that there can be a better alternative, they, Mr. Speaker, proceeded with the devices. We came in and we had to replace. The company developed the content. We are paying the license fee per child. We have the device that is flimsy, but the content remains the property of the company. So that if the government decided at the time that they were pulling out of the agreement, they would have no access to the content for which they were paying license fees. What have we done, Mr. Speaker, as an alternative? We have taken the teachers from our school system, working with our curriculum officers, and they have developed culturally relevant content for our secondary school students to use on our laptops. But, Mr. Speaker, I saw on Facebook very recently where the leader of the opposition and the United Workers' Party, they have boldly pronounced that if they get into government, they will return to the same e-books arrangement for the students of our country. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, where I told you we are saving $2.8 million. The license fees that were being paid to a foreign company, it stays here. We use that money to complement what has been allocated for first generation scholarship. We use that same amount for TVET programming, Mr. Speaker. And they have the gall. They're bold enough to tell St. Lucians that if they win the election, which they will never do, they will return to this. And so, Mr. Speaker, I must commend the staff at the COMDU for leading this initiative. Mr. Speaker, plant and equipment. Mr. Speaker, we have spent a lot of money in the last financial year, and we've allocated a lot more for the rehabilitation of school plant in this country. Through the Afri-Exim Bank, we were able to secure $6 million, Mr. Speaker, to rehabilitate over approximately 25 schools in this country. But the scope of works varied based on the needs of the school. And just as I did in the debate on the estimates, I did apprise this Honorable House of the work that is ongoing at the Plainview Combined School in Viewfort South, the Pero Combined School in Viewfort North, the TVET School of Sustainable Agriculture and Culinary Arts, and the Enchibo Secondary School, where new blocks are being constructed. Mr. Speaker, while the government acknowledges that an overall budget of $48 million is required for major upgrades and rehabilitation, this year we have committed $12.6 million to this initiative. The 2025-2026 budget will prioritize critical improvements in health and safety, including upgrades to perimeter lighting, fencing, electrical systems, and major roof repairs and plumbing and sewer infrastructure. These investments underscore the government's dedication to creating a secure, modern, and well-equipped learning environment that will support academic excellence and students' well-being. So, Mr. Speaker, we put a premium on education. We are covering all our bases in education. And Mr. Speaker, recently, we were able to secure for the Caribbean Development Bank approval for the PERT, P-E-R-T, the Program for Education Realignment and Transformation. Approximately every 5 years, Mr. Speaker, the government of St. Lucia with the Caribbean Development Bank would enter into an agreement where a major intervention is made to improve the quality of education and education infrastructure. And so in times past, you would have heard of the BIP. We have just wrapped up we are in the process of wrapping up the EQUIP. And so the PERT will be commencing where an amount of $30 million, Mr. Speaker, 17 million loan, 4 million grant, and the government of St. Lucia is expected to provide 9 million counterpart contribution for the execution of the PERT. The PERT was approved at a CDB board meeting in December of 2024. Arrangements are currently being made to facilitate project signing and commencement. Major infrastructural projects will happen at quite a few schools in this country, Mr. Speaker. The list is exhaustive, but I'm sure it will delight the member for Soufriere to learn that a block will be constructed at the Soufriere Comprehensive. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I will not mention the other schools, Mr. Speaker, and the constituencies that will benefit in the interest of time. Mr. Speaker, foundational skills and support systems at the primary level. The OECS pool, an early learners reading and math assessment was developed in 2024. A pilot of the assessment tool was implemented in October 2024. Full implementation will be in May 2025 and will provide real-time data that will facilitate remedial action and allow St. Lucia for the very first time to meet international reporting obligations. Mr. Speaker, school security, I would have hinted earlier, as I did in the debate on the estimates, that school security has been a vexing issue for educators, in particular the St. Lucia Teachers Union, and rightfully so. Mr. Speaker, the union will not flinch, they will not cower, and they will not compromise as it relates to the security and safety of their members in much the same way, Mr. Speaker, they advocate for the security and safety of the children. And so as the Minister for Education and my cabinet colleagues with whom I've discussed this, we are all on the same page. And so this year, Mr. Speaker, you will see increased fencing work at select schools, improved perimeter lighting. We'll be installing CCTV cameras or continue to install those cameras. We'll be installing alarm systems, increased personnel to complement school security, Mr. Speaker, and we'll have private security firms in select areas. I must admit that there are some schools in St. Lucia that are not fenced, and we do not have much of a security threat for the time being. But we have some hotspots, for want of a better word, where certain communities are proven to be more volatile than others, and so the interventions have to reflect the peculiar circumstances of those communities. Mr. Speaker, the South Louis Community College is also in the purview of the Minister for Education. And just to go through some college highlights, Ms. Faith Regis placed third in the region in the Cape Literatures in English program, Mr. Speaker. That is a monumental achievement that must be celebrated. Mr. Speaker, Ms. Nehal Wadrani, a Cape student, was one of 3 awardees international to win the Women in STEM Award at the first Global Robotics Challenge earlier this year. At this event, she also hosted a panel discussion on intersectionality in STEM, addressing challenges and embracing diversity. Mr. Speaker, it has been, and maybe that is what the member for Choiseul should have claimed when he spoke, the discussion on transitioning the South Louis Community College into a university. Mr. Speaker, university status remains a vision of the leadership of the South Louis Community College. And given that the college already offers 6 degree programs, the board has received technical advice recommending that the college be recast as a university college. The college is currently has started discussions, Mr. Speaker, with a number of stakeholders, local and elsewhere, with a view to realizing that particular goal at the soonest. Mr. Speaker, the board has done several things, including they've strengthened governance for the adoption of the board charter and charters for the chairpersons and for various committee members of the board. They've also revamped the functions and operations of the academic board to streamline the academic offerings of the college. Membership of the board will include not only internal academic staff, but also industry partners in its composition. The academic board, with input from the St. Lucia Teachers Union, is reviewing the workload of lecturers to ensure continuous improvement in quality of instructions provided by lecturers. Additionally, an industry curriculum committee has been established to review courses programs for their relevance to the needs of the market. And so, whether it's at the level of the South Louis Community College or at the primary or secondary level, content and curriculum must be relevant to industry. That is the essence of school. That is the essence of higher education, where you prepare people for the world of work and to fill the skills gaps that exist in your workforce. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot more I can say about the South Louis Community College, where they've completed the draft administrative process that has been written for each department. The college has also developed an HR policy and strategy. They've completed a compensation study to enable the college to recruit and retain competent managerial staff through competitive salaries and other benefits. Mr. Speaker, for the South Louis Community College to remain relevant and competitive regionally, we have to begin to attract the best minds to provide quality leadership that will make us competent. We cannot be relevant only with paint on the building, but the personnel who drive the college, the lecturers who instruct the students, must be of a particular world-class standard as exists now at the college, Mr. Speaker, for us to continue remaining competitive. The college has completed a draft student charter that firmly establishes the expectations of students. The college has approved a framework for creating the ideal lecturer for the college. No longer, Mr. Speaker, will it be that you can get a job as a lecturer at Sir Arthur because of your academic achievements. You need a lot more than that. You need to understand the impact of tertiary education to national development. You need to understand that the young people interested in your care, Mr. Speaker, are being molded so that they can take their rightful places in the world of work. And there's so many other achievements and initiatives at the South Louis Community College, Mr. Speaker, that I would love to get into, but in the interest of time, I can't. Mr. Speaker, we've brought back the principal assistants because of the demands, the increasing administrative demands in schools, primary schools. Our government has provided and made available additional monies to recruit more principal assistants. When we introduced the program that was stopped by the UWP, Gouvernement Flambeau du bout, Mr. Speaker, programme là côté mettre tous et puis mettre l'école en système premier nous, t'es cani en second trip pour aider yo faire bagay. Gouvernement Flambeau vini qui au bout de ça. Nous mener vie et nous gagne élection. Et nous pas seulement mener vie, mais en budget ça, Premier ministre là, j'ai metté l'argent là que nous gagne mener plus pour hand principal's assistants at some of the schools that were not serviced when the program was first reintroduced. Mr. Speaker, the Creole in Schools program continues, and Mr. Speaker, I've asked my staff to make allowances for any member of parliament who want to learn the Creole language at the elementary level. I, as Minister of Education, would waive for you and ensure that you get quality instruction so that you can understand. Mr. Speaker, I don't have the authority to waive fees, but I'm sure the Minister of Finance will ask me to take a memo to Cabinet and get a conclusion to ensure that such happens. Mr. Speaker, enhancing special education. In the 2024-2025 financial year, The subsector benefited from $200,000 in the provision of assistive devices, specialized diagnostic tools, and specialized laptops to enhance the instructional programs with teachers and students in special needs. So special needs students have special devices. We call them assistive devices that would help them learn. And Mr. Speaker, when I listened to the member for Miku North, in his capacity as the minister with responsibility for persons with disabilities or differently abled persons, Mr. Speaker, it warms my heart to know that our government, the compassionate government that we are, and I alluded to that at the embryonic stages of my presentation, that there was something in the budget for everybody in this country, irrespective of your station in life. And so we take special needs education very, very seriously. I remember, Mr. Speaker, having some very robust discussions at the Ministry of Education, where I wanted to see special education needs facilities in different communities. But the practitioners are saying to us, the technical people in the Ministry of Education, that this is not the way to go. They want for the differently abled students to be integrated in mainstream education. And I see the merit in this, Mr. Speaker. But you must have the trained personnel, and in some instances, you have to complement the existing numbers at certain schools so that they can deal with the children who have certain challenges. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak to other portfolio areas that the Prime Minister would have mentioned in his budget. Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, I represent a banana producing community. My constituency sits in an agricultural belt. And when I learned that agriculture, according to the Social and Economic Review, grew by 10% thereabout, Mr. Speaker, I had reason to celebrate. Because I know that the Member of Parliament for Denry South, I know the efforts that he made, Mr. Speaker, to reach out to the farmers of this country, to provide them with implements, to provide them with agrochemicals and give them other forms of support. The farm labor support programs, covering oils for the bananas, and the list goes on and on. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am elated that he did so. Mr. Speaker, lands and housing. You heard the policy pronouncements on housing, and the Prime Minister did say that quite apart from mentioning Talvon and the housing project to come in the constituency of ancillary canneries, that there are other initiatives that will be embarked on. Right here in this house, less than a month ago, I came and I spoke about the advanced plans of our government to develop a community in Olio known as Madua, where we have actually gotten surveys. Lots have been demarcated on crown lands. Mr. Speaker, in anticipation of my presentation today, a candidate for the United Workers' Party this morning puts out a video where he has a development plan for the same Madua that I spoke about. Mr. Speaker, and that is how people become misguided. The easiest way to become misguided in politics is when you are following a leader with no vision, a leader who bluffs, a leader, Mr. Speaker, who comes and he promises pie in the sky, a leader who wasted 5 years, dragged this country into a 6th year, and then was deposed. He was gotten rid of. And that is what we are beginning to see manifesting itself in Denry North. So that on the weekend, Mr. Speaker, everybody knows that we have embarked on a fencing program at the Larissos playing field. Yes. Mr. Speaker, when I was the Minister for Youth Development and Sports in 2011 to 2016, we acquired lands adjacent to the Larissos playing field to have an expanded surface, redirected the waterway, the river, paid lands for land acquisition, paid people for land acquisition, crop compensation for everybody who farmed there. People who were paid. A deceased man, Makiba, got $87,000 for a foundation for a house that he started building there. And guess what, Mr. Speaker? Last week, a misguided Denry North candidate, he goes to 2 gentlemen and is trying to get from them disparaging words about myself and the project, and he has somebody recording asking the men to speak against the project and by extension the MP for Denry North. Mr. Speaker, I called one of the gentlemen who was in my office 3 days before on constituency day. He told me what losses he suffered. I explained to him that government had compensated everybody who
you
was
have
farming
15
in that
minutes
area.
left.
How much?
15.
Thank you. Government had compensated everybody who farmed in the area. But people still went and they cultivated. But Mr. Speaker, I know the gentleman's circumstances. My retort to them was, look, government has paid monies. I will not make representation on your behalf at the level of cabinet or in parliament. But instead, if it has to come from my personal funds, I will compensate you. And we agreed to that. But it was politically expedient to go and record somebody. And they are two of my strongest supporters, you know, Mr. Speaker. And if I'm missing 2 votes to win the elections and I see Alpha and Ital come in, I will begin to celebrate. Nous avons des affaires, nous. Pas tout un ça, ça pas affaire. Come and provide your alternative policies. And they say, my affaire ain't then enough. My affaire ain't. Mr. Speaker, I don't even want to take the liberties to say how many scholarships. I will not. My même dit comme scholarships. As I said before, and I will say again, we have had more university scholarships in Denrinoff from 2021 to now than we had from 1979 when St. Lucia became independent to 2021 when the St. Lucia Labour Party. For 5 years, nothing, no roads, no footpaths, no drains, no scholarships. I could have done nothing for 5 years. Today I come and I'm trying to address a deficit with road infrastructure, and you have a problem with the concrete trucks. Guess what? More concrete trucks to come. And if you have a problem with the concrete trucks, find another place to stay. The valley is not the place for you. The Austin Hill Road. I've told this story here a million times before. Chimé mon Austin. Premier ministre, c'était ministre qui a une responsabilité pour l'infrastructure. Nous ne pouvons pas assez là pour faire le chemin. Mais nous pouvons beaucoup un homme qui a moi, M. Scott, et nous mettons un corner à passer M. Gordon. Parce que c'est la machine qui nous monte en Hadem Madigua, c'est qu'à struggle. Les gens qui ont boutique plus haut, goods vehicles là, pas de ça monter là pour service. So nous avons fait un chemin. Et après l'élection, nous avons fini le chemin. Nous perdons l'élection. Flambeau vini. En bas, Jid, même parlement pour Mikoutsaouf. Il n'a pas fini le chemin. Because, même quand tout le monde a pour punir moi, so that il pas fait, les gens qui ont dit Shawn pas fini faire chemin et qui ont voté contre moi. C'est ça, ils disent quoi? On dit, moi, j'ai fini chemin Austin Hill. I finished it. The same thing he did for the health center to punish me and the Labour Party supporters in Denrinoff. He found the money in the budget. He took it out, but he was busy spending money to facilitate horses. But he couldn't look after the basic needs of communities. And today you can muster the courage to come and talk. Talk. Mr. Speaker, there is room for dignity in politics. And shame does not always reside in the politics. It doesn't have to in the politics. And that is what I suffered at his hands. So when his surrogates, and I made the point in ancillary, and they twisted it to make it seem as if I was vilifying people unnecessarily. Any prime minister, and if tomorrow the member for ancillary countries becomes the prime minister, and he denies duly elected members resources to do projects in their constituencies, I will vilify him the same way. And if the member for Denry South becomes the prime minister and he does it, I will vilify him the same way. This is the worst act in Parliament ever committed against duly elected members, where unilaterally you can just starve off of resources because you believe you are mighty and you are strong. And then he's afraid to put on his mic and speak. So he wants everybody to speak before him, Mr. Speaker, so he can come after everybody has spoken to insulate himself. Coward. The biggest act of cowardice. I was a student in Trinidad, and when this Patrick Manning presented the budget on Power 102 FM, next day I'm tuned in because Kamala Prasad Bissessa is responding to the budget everywhere else in the Caribbean. But I challenge him to come and put on his mic and respond to any budget, be it the estimates or the policy statement as presented by the Prime Minister. So, Mr. Speaker, we have embarked on a comprehensive program to transform this country. We got our mandate from the people of this country. I got my mandate from the people of Denrinoff. I'm happy to report today that the policies of this government are benefiting the people of Dennery North in ways they never imagined before. Our roads have been improved, and there are more roads to come, Mr. Speaker. Our health center has been recommissioned. We have done work on every school in the constituency, Mr. Speaker, to rehabilitate to the best of our abilities within the confines of what is available. We are providing scholarship to the children of ordinary people. And I remember the days when schools like the Larissus Combined, there was no Olio Combined School yet. It was Larissus Combined, Daniel Riviere. And at Daniel Riviere, you would move from kindergarten, we call it now, from stage 1 to standard 2, and you had to go to Larissus for 2 years to finish primary education, do common entrance, and then go to a secondary school. You know what they used to call us? Together with Roseau Combined, Miku Primary, schools within the banana belt. That's how they called us. Very little regard for us. And as far as a lot of people were concerned at the time, we didn't have the capacity to learn and to do. I am a product of the banana belt. I am standing here today, and nobody, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter where you have been before. You will not posture in any way and have a responsibility, not only to the people of Dennery North, but to marginalized people in St. Lucia. So that when somebody applies for a scholarship and they're from Monsieur, or they're from Gayabois, or they're from Belvedere, once, Mr. Speaker, if they're from Maynard Hill or Tourouge, or they're from Pom, or they're from Monkey Tongue, or they're from Bolo Bell, it doesn't matter where they're from. Once they have the requirements, I will ensure, through a meritocracy, that they get their fair share of the pie. And they too can go to university. And they too can return. And they can walk the floors of the hospitals as trained doctors. They can sit at the Ministry of Infrastructure and design roads and buildings because they have been exposed to quality education elsewhere. And education that otherwise they would never have gotten because of the socio-economic circumstances at home. At a time when scholarships were supposed to have been provided to the people of this country. The tractors, Mr. Speaker, were loud in Vieux-Fort. And the later it got in the night, the louder the sounds of the tractors preparing race tracks for horses to gallop. And St. Lucians are struggling. Hospitals do not have supplies. Roads are in a deplorable condition. Banana farmers have been duped and fooled because their fruits can't go to France. And people come here and want to advise. And the member for Choiseul, Mr. Speaker, want to talk about stopping projects. Where was he when all of this was happening? He could have silently said, he could have been that defining factor who put up his hand and stand for St. Lucians. But he tacitly endorsed it, Mr. Speaker. He tacitly endorsed it. And today he wants to talk about his facility is not being open, Mr. Speaker. But I said in the estimates, and I'll say it again, there's monies for the CDP. You will benefit in much the same way when I receive from my team from plant and equipment the schools to be repaired in Choiseul, Mr. Speaker. I contact him and he participates in the process and he recommends contractors of his choice to do work in his constituency. I could have taken a position and say, well, I got nothing. I could have taken a position and say, I got nothing. I could have gotten a position where I say I got nothing and do the same. But that's not me, Mr. Speaker. That is not me, Mr. Speaker. No, you're above my pay grade. You're above my pay grade. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this budget. This budget is in the best interest of the people of St. Lucia and Dennery North. And let me say, Mr. Speaker, that despite all of the maligning that they're trying, every single week, Mr. Speaker, I am being disparaged. I am being called names. I am being maligned. I'm being accused. I'm being lied about, Mr. Speaker, all because they want my seat. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? The songs are already being composed. And for most of them, the chorus is 4 in a row. 4 in a row, Mr. Speaker. I am not flashy.
Member for Dennery North, you have 5 minutes left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not flashy, Mr. Speaker. My home is a very modest place, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't even have a fence, Mr. Speaker. That is where I live. I don't have any lavish lifestyle. Mr. Speaker, I'm a simple man. And night and day, they take turns, Mr. Speaker. They take turns, Mr. Speaker, to denigrate me, to sully my name, to destroy my reputation, all because they want my seat. But, Mr. Speaker, if they believe that by going live on Facebook, by trying to interview people, my supporters to speak against me, that this is going to give them an advantage, I have never felt more fortified in the politics than I feel now. And whether the member for Castries East decides to go this year, or he goes next year, as I believe he will, Mr. Speaker, it will be Shawn again and the St. Lucia Labour Party in Denmark. Mr. Speaker, I support this budget. I support the Honorable Prime Minister. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, to this Honorable House, that the biggest act of travesty or the worst thing that can happen to this country is to ever entrust the reins of government in the hands of the member for Micoud South. But, Mr. Speaker, nothing remains a secret in St. Lucia. You're hearing the gossip and the soupçon all over the place. There is turmoil in his camp, Mr. Speaker. They do not want him, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, people are now being recruited because they've been told that if you look at the United Workers' Party landscape, sooner than later, there will be a leadership vacancy. And you qualify, and you can do it. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of Dennery North, I want to thank you for your indulgence. I want to thank my colleagues for their support. I want to thank the staff of the Ministry of Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training. I want to thank my support team in the Mabuya Valley. I want to thank my family and all my supporters for their steadfast support on this journey. It has not been easy, Mr. Speaker, but I remain steadfast and committed in providing quality representation to the people of Dennery North and to lead the ministry and the agencies in my ministerial remit to the best of my ability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.